Hello again, and let's do more business. The World Bank says it's finalizing talks with the Finance Ministry over the funding for the savings and loan sector cleanup. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Ernest Addison, recently indicated that the bank was awaiting for government's funding to start the exercise. The initial projection puts the cost to around 1 billion Ghana cedi actually. Although the World Bank will not disclose the amount involved, Country Director Henry Kirali says the support is to reduce what could be a negative impact on low-income earners.
We know that there are challenges in there, and some of those savings and loans and some of those microfinance and even rural community banks have issues. I dare say, according to the central bank, according to Bank of Ghana, some of them may actually be insolvent. I don't have the exact figures, but I do know that there are issues. The numbers that have been quoted, I believe $1 billion or thereabouts to be able to resolve those issues. We are working with Ministry of Finance to see if we can provide some of, at least some of that financing. But the sooner the government acts, the better, because we know that a larger proportion of the poor have investments into these kinds of entities, microfinance entities. And so the impact on the poor is much greater than the impact of the 5 or 7 banks that were resolved, simply in terms of numbers of people who will be impacted.
How has this discussion with the Ministry of Finance gone in terms of helping with this cleanup because of how it's going to impact the low-income earners in the community? That have you done the assessments in that, okay, looking at our assessment, the World Bank, might be willing or to give about maybe $500 million or even $200 million to support this cleanup or even fund the entire cleanup?
Let me not preempt the discussions, but those discussions are ongoing. And we are looking into potential to provide financing to the government for exactly that. It may take a few more months for us to conclude those discussions, and so we'll make a statement or an announcement once those discussions are completed.
And that could take a while because, again, I look in the IMF program and it is part of some deadlines that they need to complete the cleanup of the microfinance sector. So maybe the support, a technical support or a financial support from the World Bank shouldn't delay that long.
It won't delay that long. As I say, there are due processes that have to be followed, including ultimately approval by our board of any financing that we make to Ghana. So we are aware of the issues, let me put it that way, and we'll work with the government as fast as we can.
Are you worried about how development in the sector have panned out, savings and loans, microfinance, rural banks? Because we thought that things could have been better, but from the reports we are seeing, things might be worse than we even thought.
Definitely things could have been better, but I don't think it's catastrophic. Certainly what I've seen doesn't lead me to believe that we are facing a catastrophic situation. No. It's a situation that can be resolved, and I believe the numbers that have been mentioned, $200 million or 1 billion cedis, is something that is manageable. So I wouldn't like to send a signal that there is extreme concern. No, there is concern, but it's a situation that is manageable.
Do you think that our module going forward should again be reviewed in terms of when it comes to the financial transmission mechanism for the low-income earners in those rural communities as well, in engaging them and dealing with them? Because when you look at the bank's broad policy of reducing poverty, it is very critical on how these channels are used.
The specific issue here is one of regulation and oversight on microfinance institutions. It's probably way beyond the capacity of Bank of Ghana to be able to regulate and supervise thousands of these microfinance institutions, the rural bank, community banks, and the savings and loans banks. So it's purely a manner of organizing the supervision and oversight arrangements and the regulation arrangements so that these microfinance institutions come under some overall regulatory environment. So far, it hasn't worked well because Bank of Ghana is probably not totally able to oversee the vast numbers that are concerned. So some reform is needed in that direction to ensure that there is capacity for Bank of Ghana to be able to provide that through some intermediary arrangement. And I believe that discussion is ongoing within the government and with the Bank of Ghana, how to structure a regulatory environment for the microfinance sector.
It's Friday and we want to see how the stock market fared. Better Tubiga of Gold Coast has the update.
By close of trade yesterday, we saw both major indices, that's the composite index and the financial stock index, declining on their previous levels. So the composite index came down by 2.27 points, and that's a loss of 0.09%. And we saw the financial stock index also pairing 4.33%, and that represents 0.20% of its previous level. And we had 14 equities participating in trade yesterday on the stock market. And if you look at these major indices, the composite index is currently recording a week-to-date loss of 3.09%, and he has a 4-week loss of 3.09% and a week-to-date loss of 0.67%, and the overall year-to-date loss is 3.37%. The financial stock index also records a 4-week loss of 1.94% and a 1-week loss of 0.47% and a year-to-date loss of 1.47%. We had 2 equities making way to the gainers list and 1 equity losing on its share price. We have Societe Generale, currently the best or the most returning equity on the stock market. It closed adding 2.08% to close at 98 pesos per share. And we had EGL Enterprise Group Limited advancing by 0.94% to close at 2 Ghana cedis 15 pesos per share. ETI was the sole loser of the market, and we can say it contributed a lot to the decline that we saw in the major indices on the stock market. Declined by 6.25% to close at 15 pesos per share. So these were the movers that we had yesterday on the Ghana Stock Exchange, and going forward we're not expecting anything significant to happen by close of trade, but we are likely to see some further appreciations in Societe Generale.
Now, crude oil went up by 28 cents, while precious metal gold lost 29 cents. The commodity news is next. For business with me, Sandra Esinam Apenu. Thanks so much for your time. But for more news, do log on to our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Thanks so much once again, and see you next week.